Rhodes is going to be in the main event of WrestleMania against Roman Reigns. The whole story is that Dusty never won the title. You're very close to Cody. How is this experience? Are you going to be there? Talk me through all your thoughts on that.
God, I got so many stories. I'll start with the first one. I was mentoring Cody by the time he was 12 years old. And he was such, a wrestling aficionado. Like, he could talk about wrestling at 12 years old, like really educated guys who were 24 could talk about it. And what he would say, oh, that match was the shits, or this match was that. I'll go, so what didn't you like about that? And it was astounding, his understanding of the business at a very young age. And at some point, in the beginning, I did it for Dusty, because without Dusty Rhodes, and you can see there's pictures all over the wall, and you may not see one with me and him behind me because he's sitting in front of me, because these are the pictures on my desk, are ones are like show and tell. This is a picture of me in the Dream in 1989 when I was working for Florida Championship Wrestling. So when Dusty was helping me at the early part, like, I got my first break for myself in the AWA as a manager and a color commentator. And this, the only reason I know this picture is day one, because of that diamond doll. She only did it once, day one. So I made that happen, but it looked like it was never going to go anywhere from there. Dusty brought me to Florida Championship Wrestling. He brought me into WCW, and he wasn't just a mentor. He would become a really close friend. Just fast forward to when he passes, Cody calls me. And Dusty had already told me this before, but coming from Cody, it was really special, because Dusty wanted me to know that you tell Dallas I had 5 friends, meaning Dusty. I had 5 friends. I could count them on one hand. He said to Cody, and some of those friends fell off over a period of time, and some came back. He said, Dallas never fell off. So that was super personal. But Cody, like I said, I was mentoring him and just being his friend, and he got to hang out with not just his father, who's was a god in the business, but a guy who's going to be a future Hall of Fame dude. And we talk about everything. And then one day, I'm getting ready to go to WWE, and it's summertime, and he's getting ready. He's just in the ring, just playing around and stuff. And I said, so when do you start in football? Because he, American football. He loved American football. Dusty coached his son for years in the lower leagues. And at the time, I want to say he was a sophomore in high school, or going to be a sophomore, which put him around 15. And I said, well, what do you got, start football? He goes, I'm not going to play football this year. I go, what? I go, you love football. He goes, yeah. He said, but I really want to focus on wrestling. I want to focus on one thing. And he said, my junior year, I'm going to win the states. I was like, wow, that's a bold statement. I said, you know what that's going to take? He said, yeah, a lot of work. He understood work ethic way back then. Before he was a teenager, he understood work ethic. And so I wrestling WWE, I'm there for like 6 months, and finally I leave and I go to LA, and now it's Cody's junior year, and I just call him up and see how he's doing. And he's 11-0. And he's pretty pumped up. And my advice always back to him is keep reaching for those stars, but keep your feet on the ground. Then I called him again when he was like 24-0. And then I called him when he was like 36-0. And he was like, I was like, hey, back then I always called him Young Buck. I don't know why, but I did, which is kind of crazy considering his history, you know? Um, but I said, "So what's up, young buck?" He's like, "Oh, Dallas, you just don't know. Oh my God, everything is so unbelievable." Like, me and Dad just did an interview for the Atlanta newspaper, which is a huge paper here. And he goes, and then the TV stations came down and interviewed me and Dad. You know, blah blah blah. I go, he's like, "You just don't know." I go, "Well, you slow down, young buck. I think I might have an idea. You know, I am a three-time world champion." "Oh no, I don't mean it like that." Of course, Cody would never be disrespectful ever, and I was just playing, having fun with him, you know. And I said, 34-0. I said, "Bro, you got a huge bullet. You got a huge bullseye on your back." I said, "You really, you really need to be really focused here because everyone is gunning for you now." I said, "But if you get to the state championship, I will fly back." Now, at the time, I'm living in Los Angeles. I said, "I will fly back to see your finals." He's like, "You will fly back from LA?" I was like, "Yes." I said, "You just could get in the finals." Well, I booked the flight right then. I was there. I watched him go 48-0. Now, the next year, my buddy Marlon was, I introduced him to Cody when he was out, and he knew of him and everything. So he would smarten me up when something would happen. And he would say, "Hey, Cody lost." Like, he lost like on his 12th or 13th match, right? So I call him up like I always call him up, like I don't know anything. "Hey, young buck, what's up, buddy?" "Dallas, I lost. I lost." I go, "Thank God." And he said, "What? Why would you say that?" I said, "Cody, you think you learn anything from winning? You don't learn from winning, bro. You learn from losing. You learn from failing. You learn from making mistakes." I said, "What did you learn from that loss?" And we talked about a couple of things. I said, "Let me tell you why you have the upper hand here. He thinks he beat you. He doesn't know you. He doesn't know how that's going to drive you at a different level. And from there to the finals, the only thing kids did not want to do was get pinned by Cody Rhodes, which is Cody Runnels is his real name, but everybody calls him Cody Rhodes back then. And just don't get pinned. And once he realized that, this is how this guy thinks, okay? Oh, this kid's going to fight like crazy not to get pinned. I'm going to let him up again. So did you let him up? Boom, he'd take him down. And then he'd just get right off him and get up and take him down. Let him up, take him down until the guy was completely gassed. Then you're pinned. He was in the greatest shape. The only shape I've seen him better in is the shape he's in right now. But back then at 187, this young stud was shredded mentally and physically. And now I'm there with my daughter, Brittany, and we're up in the stands, and Cody's coming out, and you can have 5 family members on the mat. And I'm in the stands, and I hear Cody go, "Dad, get Dallas down here." And Grandpa or somebody had to get off that seat. And I sat down there and I watched Cody eat this kid alive. Like, he was possessed at a different level. It was his state championship. No one was going to take it from him. So when he did the whole all in thing, like when he left the WWE, and I don't know what he was making, but I know what that money's like in WWE when you were in the spot he was in. And I'll guarantee you, as long as he was there, it was somewhere near $500,000. Mm-hmm. And he walked away from it because he saw himself here. They saw him here. And they were never going to see him at the top of the card in the main event unless he left and proved himself right. It wasn't to prove them wrong. It was to prove himself right. It took a lot of balls to walk away from that kind of money, right? Guaranteed money, which he probably would have got, as long as a bunch of those guys who were there, and now they're all gone, but eventually you're gone. But you leave a mid-card guy, it's hard to build up that ladder outside or get those payoffs. But he did. And it was the way he did it. And I remember Kevin Owens is the one who called the Young Bucks because he was really good friends with them and said, listen, Cody, solid dude, man. And they got together, they all bonded, and we know what they did and started a friggin' new wrestling company. Now, it took all four of those guys to really make that happen. The Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, the whole deal. Great, amazing, all of them are amazing talents. And they were different then. I always tell people, there's the guy who's the best. He's the best. And anyone is lesser than he, unless you're different than he. Then you got your own little barometer. And those guys, they made their own barometer. And Hangman Page and, the whole thing that they did when those five guys went over, they changed the face of wrestling. And it was having a hell of a run. And at some point, because Cody, he's a lot like, me in this scenario, that he's promotionally oriented. He wants to do more than just wrestle. He wants to be working all the time. This is his time. Let's do it. So he did a show that was on TBS with Snoop Dogg. And he did a reality show. And for whatever reason, the fans, like for AEW, like they forgot who this guy was. Like without him, and he's the guy who said, no one else said it, we could draw 10,000 people. And Meltzer said, you're getting a little full of yourself. Maybe 4,000. And Cody said, I'll take that bet. But it wasn't that. It's when I was there at All In. He was being his old man that night, meaning his old man ran the show and in his prime worked that night, but ran it all. And I can remember, I was talking about this the other day. I can remember him, looking at me and going, I don't know if I'll ever get to do anything like this again. And I am having a blast. And every single guy, every one of the boys, he'd be like, just have fun out there. Go out there, do your thing, but have fun. That's why that feeling of the AEW was what it was. And, he would write the TVs. Like, it's challenging to write TVs and storylines and all of that. And Tony was right there, Tony Khan, but Tony didn't know how to do that. He learned that from Cody. But at some point, there is no way if I was Tony Khan, I'm losing Cody Rhodes. There is no way. I mean, the other guys are important too, big time. And they're monster superstars. But the guy who technically knows how to do the behind the scenes storytelling, and just to point out a couple of them, when I watched Darby Allin go out there for the very first time, no one knows anything about him except for on the independent scene. When I watch him go out there, and I never want to know the finish. He knows that. I want to watch. I want to watch like a fan. And I watched him go 20 minutes Broadway. First of all, I don't even remember when the last Broadway was. It was so long ago. But Cody saw something in that kid that no one saw in a 5'8", 155-pound kid. Nobody saw it, but he did. And that's why he got the job. He also was the one who discovered, oh, what's his name again? MJF, who is the best heel in the business from top to bottom because he can work, because he knows how to, to be the heel, the chicken shit, and he loves people booing him. He does not want anybody to cheer him. Nobody. But Cody, again, saw something in him and helped him up. And then, of course, Sammy Guevara. I mean, Jericho did a ton to really get, Sammy in that spot, but so did Cody. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like he wasn't like he was beating everyone and made himself the AEW champion.
Yeah.
He never was. You know what I'm saying? So when I watch all of that, for starters, if I was Tony Khan, I never would have let him go. Like, to me, it was like when Eric Bischoff let go of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I was like, no, not him. Like, not him. And we all know what happened there.
When Brett realized that, like, okay, when he heard me say enough times, like, hey, what? It's not like I was thrilled to be that dude. I mean, it isn't like I ever, when I was, 12 years old, 15 years old, I sat at home going, I don't want to just be a pro wrestler. I want to be a pro wrestler, and then when I'm in it, I want everybody in that industry to hate my guts and be the most hated guy in the wrestling business.